So you probably heard the story. Some of you have heard me tell it. Herbie Hancock, the jazz pianist and band leader, was playing for the jazz legendary Miles Davis. They were hot that night, grooving or jazzing, playing Miles Davis's own composition, So What? And things were going very well, and Herbie Hancock, during Miles Davis's trumpet solo, played the wrong chord. Herbie Hancock was horrified, frozen, in fact. Miles Davis, though, paused just for a moment, and then he played some notes that made Hancock's chord work. He made it right. So the notes that Davis played made Hancock's missed chord, his mistake, sound like not a mistake. As an intern here, I was required to offer a signature initiative, which is another way of saying a big project, or a capstone project, I suppose, if you're familiar with other disciplines. I'll spare you the details of that project, but I titled it Jazz, Joy, and Justice. Because of this story and the meaning that I took from it, and also because of WPFW radio, and I was listening to that a lot every day on my way to work here. I would listen to that radio station. And several things converged during my time with you as an intern that made all that happen. And part of it was an understanding of what it means to be in religious community. This idea, this mantra, jazz, joy, justice, this framing of ministry has not left me. It's deepened and expanded for me. So today I'm going to give a little bit of a recap because 7 years is a long time and you probably don't remember and a lot has happened. And you may not even have been here 7 years ago, and then I'm going to share where that's taken me and us. My time here with you shaped who I am as a minister, and I'm forever grateful to you. And specifically, I'm grateful to you for the space, the permission, the culture here that made it okay to make mistakes. It's so much easier to learn and grow, to be loving, to be the people we want to be jazz salad, when we accept that mistakes are part of who we are. In interacting with the world and with each other, we are often required to improvise. And in order to be at our creative best, it helps to have a strong foundation. So jazz musicians, when they do all that stuff, that's taken years of practice. And that's true with life in general, of course. We learn and embrace the basics of being of being human. I am feeling kind of hot. Taking care of our bodies and minds, building emotional health and resilience, and nurturing and growing our spirits. How that looks may differ for each of us as individuals, according to our social locations and other factors, race, socioeconomic status, our parents, religious background, sexual orientation, gender identity, our place in society, and how society treats us. Certainly, over the last few years, we have had so many opportunities to improvise and adapt. We just started using the word pivot frequently at UU Loudoun. We don't learn these basics in isolation, though. We learn the basics in and with communities of people and through interactions with our surroundings, both near and far. We learn what is important, what we value, not just who we are, but how we want to live in the world. We learn what we're willing to work for, what we're willing to risk and be vulnerable for. As we mature, as individuals, physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually, and as congregations. We look beyond ourselves as individuals and begin to consider others, further building on those basics of being human. We have many opportunities to respond, to improvise our lives, and to improvise in our relationships. But sometimes, no matter how much we practice or don't practice, no matter how good our intentions, no matter how prepared we are, sometimes, like Herbie Hancock, we just hit the wrong chord. A sharp retort that we wish we hadn't said. Hitting send a little too soon on that reactive email, or reply all when it should have just gone to the one person. I see some of you know what I'm talking about. A Facebook post where the tone didn't transfer as well, or using language that offends someone, whether it was intentional or not, or a perceived offense or defense on anyone's part. We play the wrong chord. That night, Miles Davis gave Herbie Hancock a gift. Hancock says Davis saw his wrong chord not as a mistake, but just as something that happened, an event. Miles Davis himself says, when you hit a wrong note, it's the next note you play that determines if the first note was good or bad. So what matters is less about the mistake, the wrong note or chord. That's just something that happened, an event. But how we respond to it, it's what we do next that makes the difference. I think about this particularly in our nation today, and actually the whole world, and with Unitarian Universalist. Whatever happens, how will we respond? During the early days of the pandemic, I had a frame around my profile picture that read, "We are all responsible for what happens next." In many ways, I think this may be the essence of what beloved community means. How we respond to each other, especially when a wrong note has been played. We talk about how being receptive to each other how we are receptive to each other within this congregational community, how being the church or congregation is like jazz improv. It takes practice and years of hard work. Sometimes we're called to move into leadership and sometimes called to move away from it, or into the spotlight and sometimes out of it. We listen for what others are doing in order to know what part we should play, or when it's our turn, or when it's our solo. It can get messy. It can be hard. Sometimes we call that beloved community. Philosopher and theologian Josiah Royce created the term beloved community at the beginning of the 20th century to refer to the ideal community of all people dedicated to loyalty, truth, and reality. In the mid-20th century, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. popularized and specified the term to refer to a community not ravaged by the three evils of racism, poverty, and militarism. Three evils: racism, poverty, and militarism. Dare we to even imagine a world like that? Can we even imagine that? I think we must have to be able to. A world of equity, pluralism, a world thriving, a world of pacifists, a commitment to nonviolence wherever we are. The roots of the term beloved community are based in the word from the Christian Bible, agape. Agape is described as a purely giving form of love. Agape love is understanding, creative, redemptive, goodwill to all. It seeks nothing in return, as written by Dr. King. King describes this as the love of God. You can just use the word love if that works for you. The love of God operating in the human heart. And Josiah Royce offers a non-theist possibility for this kind of love, which he calls loyalty. And by loyalty, Royce means the practically devoted love of an individual for a community. The practically devoted love of an individual for a community. Like here, kind of. But Royce also makes clear that loyalty for him is not a secular virtue. He focuses on the reality of communities in human experience. Family, home, village, tribe, clan, country, or church or congregation. And the love and devotion we manifest toward these communities. Loyalty is love for the community. But wait, there's more. Sometimes we toss those words around like we know what they mean, beloved community. I would say that how we respond to each other, especially when one of us hits a wrong chord or note, is a way of practicing beloved community. The Reverend Joanna Fontaine Crawford writes that beloved community is not held within our church walls. As soon as we begin to think like that, we've moved into the exact opposite of beloved community. Because in creating that definition of community, we have necessarily created otherness. There is the community inside our walls, the people who may think like us, act like us, look like us. And there are people who are not part of the community, the others. Thinking that way is not beloved community. Beloved community is all of us, everyone, everywhere, and everything too. Everyone, everywhere. Everyone, everyone, everywhere. Not so easy. Like improvisational jazz or comedy improv itself, beloved community takes openness and work. It means saying yes and to explore with each other what the possibilities are. We can think of it as a kind of magic that just happens, that we're waiting to stumble upon or find. But beloved community, according to Josiah Royce and Martin Luther King, cannot be found. It must be created. And that indeed takes work. And it is our work to do. Beloved community may require us to do things differently, to act differently, to offer differently, to receive differently, to pay attention to how we say things and when we may have caused harm. It may require us to examine our assumptions about best practices in large ways and small ways. And here is both the exciting and frightening part. This is where Royce begins to talk about sin. We don't talk about this much as you use, with our belief in universal love and salvation and the belief that there's no hell to go to when we die. But Royce offers that sin is any action that breaks with the dictates of wholehearted love. So what I would ask you, where have you broken? Where have we broken with the dictates of wholehearted love? This is not just missing the mark, which is sin. Sin has often been defined that way. We're not talking about just not emptying the dishwasher when it's your turn, or taking the last piece of chocolate cake, or being cranky with the people we love. There's a lot of that going around lately. We aren't even talking about hitting the wrong quarter note, really. Royce is talking about a serious breach, a freely chosen act against love, an attack upon love and humanity. The choice to act against love and humanity, it would be a grave action indeed to choose that. Domination of others, racism, imperialism, and allowing people to remain in poverty. A betrayal, a breaking of trust, willfully chosen to harm others. We can think about that in those big ways, but we practice that here in our congregation. Here's the mind-blowing part for me, though. In true beloved community, when that has happened, the entire community is responsible for what happens next. The community, and only the community, and it must be the entire community, offers grace and brings the traitor, because remember, we're talking about loyalty, back into the fold of beloved community. I want to tell you a story of my time here. Near the end, I said to the minister at the time, Kate Walker, I said, you know, Kate, in my 2 years here, not one person has ever come to me to complain about you. Not one person has ever said anything derogatory about you or dismissive of you. And then what she said, I was just frankly amazed. She said, good for them. Good for them, she said. See, I thought that you all not saying anything about her was about her and how good she was. But she knew that it was not about her. She knew that it said far more about you than it did about her. The whole community is responsible for what happens next. Honestly, I take that with me. I hold that in my heart. I learned it here from you. The choice to stay in community, to do the work of making it beloved and making each other our beloveds, and everyone and everything beloved to us, to work together for justice, for a peaceful but powerful response to injustice, to draw the circle wider. That's where the joy comes. And honestly, I believe that joy is a moral mandate. Knowing that I am not in this alone, that I do not have to do this work of building beloved community by myself, that I'm free to make mistakes. There is joy in that. I do not have to do it by myself, and neither do you. The work of building beloved community belongs to all of us. The work of jazz, of joy, of justice belongs to all of us. When I fall short of my ideal, there are those to bring me back into the fold, into the embrace and care of community. We are all capable of extending that kind of love and grace. We're all capable of playing the next note, of knowing that we are responsible for what happens next. the joy of being in it together, knowing that we can improvise pretty well. So let us strengthen our communities so that they are communities of grace, outward facing, inward working, living into the beloved community of now, and creating the beloved community the world needs. Let us build a new way of being in the world, a way of celebration, forgiveness, of grace, of deep and abiding love, and yes, a pathway of joy in this journey, joy in the justice, and joy in the jazz that we create together. Blessed be and amen.